Well, hello, and welcome to ZBrush Live. We are going to start the stream in a minute. Do all the internet things like subscribe and all that good stuff. One more time, I'll mention this, that you can ask questions during the stream, and I'll answer them as best as I can. Also, you can leave your questions in the comments if I don't get to answer them, if you're watching this afterwards, and we will do the best to answer them for you. Okay, so now that that's done, let's move on to the stream. Okay, so hey, let me take a quick look here. Hello, Brazil. And Armored Core, yeah, I love Armored Core, especially their intro videos are awesome. I almost like the intro videos more than I like the games. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to do something kind of a little bit different today. I'm kind of working on this Catwoman model, kind of as a fallback if what we plan on doing doesn't work out. But I'm going to try something new, and so this is, I've done 5 seasons, and so this is the start of season 6. And the seasons are about 8 to about maybe 12, 13 episodes each, depending on which one they are. And if you guys are curious, I can tell you where you can go to watch those. We've done all sorts of different projects. I don't know if I'm going to spend 8 weeks working on this model. It's something that I was working on before, so I might do a few things with it today, but that's probably going to be the extent of it. But we are going to do something new. So to get to that, I've prepared a kind of a reference sheet here, and I'll go ahead and make this as big as possible. I've been doing a little bit of experimenting with artificial intelligence lately. And if you guys are following me on Instagram, and if you're not, why not? You will see that for the last, and let me see if I can make this a little bit smaller. For the last, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. For the last 21 days, I've been posting every day a bunch of images that I'm getting from artificial intelligence. An artificial intelligence program, and they're really interesting. This is pretty much you type in some words and some descriptions, and you work on some settings, and you let it loose, and it creates images like these. So, I mean, I'm trying to get pretty much close to what I want it to do, but of course, it's doing its own thing, and it generates some really, really interesting images. And every day in the last 21 days, I've been posting these images. And this last one has 10 images, and then the ones before it have anywhere between 6 or 7 images each. And so now we're not going to be replaced. By no means are we going to be replaced. I can tell you that much right off the bat. But what I can also tell you is that there's no way that I'm going to continue doing my work without using this as yet another tool. So, people were saying computers were going to replace us, and I think there's more jobs created with artists for computers than there were before. And I think with AI, this is just yet another kind of frontier that we have to use. So, with that said, I guess you guys can hear me okay. It looks like YouTube did this. It looks like you can hear me okay. And if somebody can Twitch can let me know that you can hear me okay too. Let's make sure the audio is working before we go on. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, if you go to any one of these, you can kind of look, and these are all kind of cropped images that I chose from many more that the AI program generated. So these are kind of ones specifically that I chose to include. So today what I've done, so yeah, I mean, if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's just instagram.com/Kermaco. And if you forget that, you can always go to my website, which is kermaco.com, Kermaco.com. And there's a link to my Instagram right here. You can click on it there. Okay, so in this kind of pure ref reference page, I've kind of gotten some of the images that were generated, some that I posted, some that I didn't, just went to the folder, and whatever seemed interesting I dragged and dropped into here. And you can see, let me grab this other stylus. You can see here that I've grouped them based on certain characteristics. And what I'm going to try to do today is I'm going to try and use this. And basically, I'm going to show you guys what I intend to do to, excuse me, how I intend to use these images. So, you know, the final images look something like this. So, for example, here's a really nice one that looks like a really good composition, right? So it looks like it's got a nice atmosphere to it, and it's got kind of a nice balance to it. There are certain things I don't like for example, this part right here could go away. So I could always paint that out or whatever. But what I'm looking for in these is I'm looking for interesting shapes, and I'm trying to see if I want to model those and be kind of inspired by the abstraction of what the AI program has done to do something similar, but do it as a 3D model. So, I mean, you know, you cannot do this image. And even though this program does do animation, it doesn't do animation on the object itself. It just basically does a zoom in and regenerates an image and uses part of this image as the previous image. And it creates this kind of interesting eye candy, but by no means is it something that can be used for production. However, like, you know, I mean, this is a pretty interesting type of scene. And this could be concept art that could be used for a production, but then somebody needs to make sense of this asset and make it into something in 3D. So that's what we're going to try and do today. And you can see, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things. Like, for example, there's a couple of guys here, and then there's this kind of weird looking robot. And this could be an interesting one to try and recreate in ZBrush. Or let's see what else there is. There's quite a few. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Or if, for example, if I'm going to create buildings, I have a whole bunch of buildings here that I chose. Like there's some really interesting looking architecture that it generated. So I might want to recreate this in ZBrush, or I might want to recreate this in ZBrush. And of course, I can always use the color scheme here. It somehow figures out a very interesting way to balance out color. Another thing that's really interesting that also is a reason, okay, so good, sound is good. And the other reason why this is kind of interesting to me is that the AI program, you can point it towards different things. So what I did is I pointed the AI towards my artwork, right? So this is the AI reinterpreting my work, right? So it's looking at my work and it's figuring out, okay, well, what can I use from Ara's work to generate these images? So as you can see here, it's kind of figured out some really interesting kind of compositions. And it's giving me a lot of really good ideas. I mean, there's kind of a good idea for a mech here that I could use, kind of a asymmetrical mech with a big arm. And so, yeah, I think this is going to be part of my workflow from this point on. I'm kind of pioneering this. I'm sure there'll be a shit ton of artists jumping on this pretty soon, especially after they see this video. And that's perfectly okay, because I think it is definitely technology that should be used in the future. So, all right, so since we are good in audio, let's go ahead and get started. So here, I'm just going to have this on the side, and I'm going to be, I mean, I just look at this picture right here, and the colors on here are just really beautiful. So, the other last thing I should mention about these is that they're also, as it's generating the images, it kind of starts building them up. So not only do I get the final images, so like one of these would be a final image with a lot of details on it or whatever, but in addition to these, I also capture the in-between stages. And they're these fuzzy images, and these fuzzy images in themselves have some interesting aspects. So for example, if you look at this one right here, this one, I think there's the final version of this in here as well. So here we go. Here, this one and this one. If you look at these, they're the same image. So this is kind of an in-between stage before the AI gets to this stage right here. So you can see that I can kind of get some different ideas from this one than I can from this one. This one has some specifics in it that kind of define it. But this is kind of a little bit more abstract, so this can have some other things that I can look at to do the work. So I'm just going to pop these back where they belong. And not that it really matters. But yeah, you can see these are kind of partials, and the partials basically give me different ideas. And of course, I can always use these as backdrops too. Like this would be a really good backdrop. Just blur it up a bit, or not even blur it, but leave it as is. And it could be a really a good kind of a background. I almost want to make a suggestion to the people making this to see if they can make these images HDR. So, I mean, using these as HDRI would be really good as well. I mean, here they do have the color information, but they definitely don't have the color depth information. There's 8-bit images. So if I can generate a 16-bit image, that would be great. Another thing about these is that they're not predictable. Like there's no way I can get the same image again. Even if I put in every single thing the same, I've tried that, it generates a different image. So these are kind of like one-time things that it generates. It's not good with faces. Like you can see here, it kind of really created a funky face here. So, you know, again, there's nothing really distinct, but it creates a very interesting dreamlike look. I mean, this would be an excellent backdrop for a composition. So with this, so I was thinking like if I was going to make the Catwoman, if she's going to be in a city somewhere, then one of these would be the backdrops that she's in. So she could be standing here, and I would just have this blurred in the background as a background. Yeah, I mean, I got some really, really interesting stuff. Like this one right here is kind of really intriguing to me. So is this one, just as a composition by itself. And, you know, I've got some really interesting building architecture ideas. This one looks really good kind of as some sort of an alien, something I've never seen before. This might be something I might want to tackle. Or this one could be like a mech, for example. So I can totally see that this is my mech right here. So it took that part. But there are these big balloons on the side to lift it up. I mean, that's a beautiful idea right there. Or I could look at the spaceship in the background here and, you know, see it as an abstract, but try to make it as a spaceship. So, yeah, I mean, this has just kind of been a really interesting journey for the last 21 days, and I've had a lot of fun generating these images. And the fun thing about this is that it's a web service. So it is at this moment generating, and I'll bring this window over. At this moment, it is generating a image, you know, so I can, I can have these, let me get this out of the way, and pop it here since I'm going to do that anyway. So right now, as I'm working, it is generating in the background. It's still continuing to generate images. So you can see this is kind of an in-between stage. Okay, so, all right, so with that, let's jump into ZBrush. And the other thing I should also mention is that for the season, I don't think I'm going to, let me drop a quick save on this guy. And we might bring her back. We might use some of this, you know, we might, you know, like if I'm not really getting anywhere with my plan, I might just revert back to sculpting a hard surface thing for this character. But I don't know if this season is going to be all one project. I might be jumping from project to another. All right, so the thing I was going to sculpt more of and kind of get more honed in are these night vision goggles that I started for her. So I did kind of some preliminary work here, but I want to flesh this out further. Because I noticed that in some of the movies, Catwoman does have these night vision goggles, so I will pop them there, maybe make a little bit of hair for her, and maybe, you know, do a pose or whatever. But this is one of the projects. I always have side projects. I have many projects that I work on at the same time. The stream is fun because I get to share one of them with you guys once every 2 weeks, and so we will go on from here. All right, so we got somebody from Armenia, Parev. Let's go ahead and, so this quick save went through, I guess, and so let's go ahead and just start with a new project here. So let's go to comma, project, And let's bring in this cube. All right, so got this cube right here, and I don't know if I need all these subdivision levels. I'm going to bring it back down to 1. It's kind of, you know, I'm just going to change it out to a very simple primitive here. Initialize 1, 1, 1, Q cube. Okay, let's delete those multiple subdivision levels, and let's do it. Okay. All right, so going back to, let me bring this back. Here. So, you know, I kind of wanted to decide on what I was going to do before, but I think I'm going to decide now. I'm not going to go with, I was kind of thinking I would do this thing right here, but maybe I'll do this as one of the things later. But I'm thinking I want to pick one of these kind of mechy looking things here and maybe doing those. One of the things I really like is this right here. So that would be a good thing to do, kind of like a space capsule top with some legs on it. That seemed really interesting to me. Another thing that seemed interesting is like a big platform with half a robot on it. That seemed interesting as well. So this was kind of interesting too, like this robot with a gun. That looked kind of interesting, kind of a boxy Gundam looking or Armored Core looking. That's for you, Prince J, type of thing. Okay, so yeah, let's see here. What do I want to do? Embarrassment of riches here because I've got so many different choices. Kind of, you know, there's too much war and death, so I don't want to do something with a gun. Let's do something more kind of peaceful. I kind of like this as a vehicle as well. Like I like the asymmetry here of something like a, you know, but I don't really see that much of it to be able to do anything with it, so maybe not that. Let's see. This looks really interesting right here. So does this. What to do, what to do. I'm kind of waiting for something to jump out at me. Let's see. This is kind of an interesting one too, like some sort of big mech head that's being hoisted up by a rope or a kind of a metal thing. And I could also do the spaceship. That would be fun. Let's keep looking here for a couple of minutes. I think this is kind of the hard part, is choosing what to do. This would be kind of be an interesting looking mech. Yeah, let's try and do something completely kind of like this too. Got so many choices, and look at that. That would be neat. This is kind of similar to what I did before though, so maybe not that one. But what's kind of funny is that like I see a lot of what I've done in these in a way, and so it's kind of like a regurgitated version of something I've already done. This is kind of interesting here too, like this as the top of the mech, and then like some weird shielded body. Right. All right. Got to kind of narrow this down. If you guys see anything that do the two-legged robot is what Slam Jam is saying. Do you mean this one, Slam Jam? This guy right here? This one? You mean the app that generates the AI, Seditious? Are you asking what app generates this? The AI app, or what this app is? You should know what this app is. This is ZBrush. All right, so Vile Pleb is saying this one is nice. Vile Pleb, I love that name. It's so good. Thanks for the. Can you please show me tutorial of the AI programs? You know, there are tutorials out there. There's tutorials better than anything I can do, and it's really very straightforward. It's very kind of a simple thing to do. You just go to this. It's called Disco Diffusion. Just here, I'll type it in. Disco Diffusion. Wait, where is it not typing? I just typed in the name of the app. Okay, so Karki wants to know the difference between Subdivision and Dynamesh. Okay, I can explain that real quick. The balloon one is very interesting. It is very interesting. Oh, are you talking about the PureRef program? Yeah, so the program that I have these in is the program that I'm showing you these in is a program called PureRef. And PureRef, I think it's for a fee now. It used to be free for a very long time. But again, I think it's like $5 or something like that. It's pretty cheap. And basically, it's a program that you can just put reference images in. You just drag and drop images into it. Valpleb is saying the balloon one is very interesting, and I agree with you. It is. Difference between Subdivision and Dynamesh. Okay, so let's do that one. Seditious, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, I mean, they are cool. They're cool images to look at. They're beautiful. I would love to have like a wallpaper of these kind of circulating and whatnot. But you're right. It's definitely, it's like a dream. You know, nothing is really kind of that concrete. You have to kind of spend some time to make it into something. All right, so shall we do, yeah, let's do this one. Why not? Why the heck not? All right, so we'll do the balloon one. So we're going to do the balloon mech, and I think that's a good idea. All right, so before I do that, somebody asked what the difference is between Dynamesh and Subdivision, okay? So that's a kind of a quick, easy one to explain. All right, so here I have a cube, right? And what I want to do is if I want to subdivide this, right, I'll just go to geometry here, and let's turn on polyframe is on. Okay, so let's just go ahead and divide it. Okay, so now I'm dividing it. Now it's subdivided, right? But I'm dividing it with smooth on. So what that means is it's going to smooth it. If I don't want to smooth it, if I want it to still stay as a cube, I can turn smooth off and subdivide it. So now you can see that each one of these squares is becoming 4, and I can continue to divide this, right? And the more divisions I have when I sculpt on it, and let me pick a brush here, like the standard brush. When I sculpt on it, you can see that these are all being kind of displaced, right? So you can see that I'm moving all these points that are over here. And the more points that I have, the smoother this is going to be. So if I continue to subdivide it, so here I subdivided it again, and I'm drawing. So you can see over here that this is a lot smoother than what I have over here. And if I subdivide it yet again, and I'll do the top, and you can see now it's kind of a lot smoother, right? And if I look here, I've got 7 subdivision levels. So I started out with something that had 1 subdivision level and ended up with something that had 7. I went from something that had 8 or 6 polygons, right, like a die, and I went up when I went up to 7. Now it has 24,576 polygons, right? So that's subdividing, right? So Dynamesh is a little bit different. So here I'm going to go back to the cube as it was before, right? And now I'm just going to go ahead and Dynamesh it. And with Dynamesh, you can specify how much detail you want, right? So here, the default is 128. If I just Dynamesh it with that, now you can see that it made my cube into, it added all this geometry to it. Now, if I want it to be more kind of like the one before, I just will add more subdivision levels, like let's go to 256 and Dynamesh it. And you can see now that it has a little bit more detail. And again, I can go up to, let's say, 512. And if I go and Dynamesh it again, right? So now it's very much similar. If I turn polyframe off, it's very much similar to that cube. And if I go to sculpt on here, right? So it's going to be pretty smooth sculpting, right? And what's nice is that you can continually Dynamesh. So now you can see that there's a little bit of stretching over here, but if I re-Dynamesh, right, so a lot of that stretching goes away. Let me switch to my regular mask here. If I re-Dynamesh, then this gets a little bit smoother, and then I can continue to work on this, right? And if I, if I use something like the snake hook brush, let me get to it. Where are you? I moved it. I changed my UI a little bit. Okay, that's fine. And now notice that if I pull this in, right, I get some stretching, but if I re-Dynamesh it, right, if I re-Dynamesh it, then it gives me more geometry, so I can actually go in here and do more detailed work, re-Dynamesh, more detailed work, re-Dynamesh, right? So Dynamesh just kind of gives you the dynamic way of sculpting. It's kind of an interesting looking thing. You can use it as a head. I'm just going to go ahead and quick save this. I'll use it maybe later on. So hopefully, Karki, that explains it for you, right? Okay. All right, so let's go all the way back to the beginning. Maybe not that much. Oh, man. All right. We'll have to really initialize this. So delete lower. Doesn't matter if it's lower or higher. Q cube 111. All right. All right. So let's make that mech with the balloon. So the first thing I'm going to do is just block it out. So I'm going to use ZModeler to do that. So here's kind of the top part of the mech. Mask this part. Let me turn perspective off. And then shrink this part down. Kind of not too much. And maybe shrink the whole thing down. Just trying to get that type of shape. Are you asking me if I'm using Sculptress, or do you want me to talk about that? Twister Revolution. All right. So yeah, I'm not sure if you want me to talk about that, or if you want me to let's make sure this is oriented correctly. I do use Sculptress Pro quite a bit. It's awesome. I pretty much use everything in ZBrush. Everything has its use. All right, so here we go. And then let me add some, turn on polyframe on here. And I don't really need the different polygroups. I'm going to turn those off and then just go to the ZModeler brush. And let's go to insert. And I'm going to insert an edge loop. Looks like one here, one here. Again, I'm just basically trying to get a very boxy version of this. And I'm going to mirror and weld it so I get that middle line. And I'm going to also turn symmetry is already on. That's great. So I'm just going to add a couple of lines here. And since this is based on my Mech, I know that there's a part here that is going to be empty. So I'll just go QMesh a single poly is what we want. Yeah, I just want to kind of create that thing there. And also I'm going to QMesh flat island in the back out like this. And I'm going to taper that in. And again, I'm just basically, I have a lot of freedom with what I saw in the AI image. So I'm just basically going on based on that. And then I want to QMesh a single poly out this way. Like so, and this is kind of where the balloon is going to be. Insert an edge loop and do this. And I'm just basically kind of, again, just interpreting what I think I see in the AI image. And I'm going to go ahead and move this point out. All right, so that's kind of the back, and I'm assuming that this part kind of detaches at some point, so I'm going to actually make it an independent part. So I'm going to go back to ZModeler here, insert an edge loop there, and QMesh this out, and I'm going to split this into different parts. So scroll up, split two parts. There we go. Okay. Right, so now I just basically have a subtool that's kind of this back part and a subtool that's the front part. All right, so let's hide this for now and let's work on this right over here. So let's see, no new questions. All right, we'll go ahead and continue on. So here I basically want to create the top part of the mech. So I'm just going to do that with the clip curve and do something like that. And then also something like this in the back. So that kind of gets me that kind of tank looking thing. And that's all good. And I'm going to Q-mesh a poly out this way and this way as well, just to get a little bit more of that kind of edged look. And I also want to make this a little bit longer, like so. All right, so that's looking good for the top part. And again, I just have to really kind of figure out like what are the parts that I don't see and what are the parts that I need to kind of reimagine, sort of. So let's say this is like that. And I'm not really caring about this being very realistic. I don't want to really put people in it or anything like that. And I kind of want it to be kind of a fast sculpt of something that I saw. So like if this was for a movie or some sort of production, then what I would do is I would generate this, and if I get approval on it, then I can move further into detail. But I'm just trying to get some sort of an object that people can look at in 3 dimensions and get some idea of what it is before I can get into more of the specific practicality of it all. All right, let's see, any questions? All right. Okay. So I'll bring this image over a bit. Do that so we can kind of get another look at it. So again, we're trying to make I just did this part and this part right here as I imagined it. So now it looks like it's got some weird arms over here. And again, I'm seeing this probably in a different way than you're seeing it. And that's the other kind of big advantage of this AI program, is that it gives you a different, different people can interpret things in a different way. I'm just trying to get some sort of a interpretation of it that will work for me. Okay, so there's that. Let's bring this back. And let's do the 2 balloons here, which should be pretty easy to do. So I'm going to use my brush. And by the way, if you guys don't know about this, I have a brush that I sell, a IMM brush, an insert multi-mesh brush. Actually, I have a version of it that's for sale, and I have a version of it that's free. So here, if you go to my website, kermaco.com, and you click on my Gumroad, it will give you my website. And here, I've got this one, which you basically get 17 brushes for free. And so, I'm going to be using the sphere from this, but I also have a version of it that has the 17 brushes plus some other things that I always use. So I just basically included those as well. And this one has 36 brushes. So the number of brushes is actually 36. These images are old, so at some point I should update them to new. To say the number of brushes there are. So 36 primitives versus 17 primitives. And there is a primitives brush in ZBrush that you can use, and it's fine. The reason why I have these is because I have them polygrouped in a certain way, and also I have the topology, I have the topology is more along the lines of what I want. So here, if so I basically inserted the star, but if I want to insert one of these objects, if I'm in move mode, I can just choose the IMM from here, from the list. So I'm going to choose this kind of sphere 32. And I don't know if it's, yeah, here it is. It came in too small, so I'll make it a little bit bigger. Bring it over here and shrink it down. Now these look like they're a bit roundish, but they are also not as, they're a bit long, right? They're long, but they're not, this top part is still round. So I'm going to use the extender here to extend this up and out. Let's add some divisions. Where are the divisions? I think it's this one. Nope, that's not what I want. I think this is, nope, it's this one. No, that one's the pull. Where is is this the divisions? Inflate now. Where are you? I think it's one of these two. Here we go, Y resolution. Here we go. We just want to add a few more divisions here. And I wonder if there's one that says, okay, we don't want creasing, so I'm going to take the creasing off. So this is kind of what the balloons look like to me. Maybe not so much, but I kind of want to squash this to get a bit of a rounder effect here and do it this way. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and mirror and weld this. Oh, what just happened? Okay, we're still in X. Oh, let me accept this. Right, late to the party. What's the air program? It's called Disco Diffusion. I typed it here on top somewhere. How to make custom brushes and alpha strokes. Okay, so to make custom brushes, you basically, what you do is, let's say I like this object right here, right? So let's say I like this new thing that I made, and I want to add it to my brush. So let's say my brush has 30 whatever objects, and I think, let me undo this, and I want to add this exact same thing to my brush. So what I do is I just turn it around here, move it to the center, and I don't even know if I need to do this, and let me get rid of all the other stuff. So, and I also want to, where I want to place this in matters. So if I want to, if I want to insert this kind of in the middle, so that wherever I insert, this is going to be in the middle, I just do it this way. And I'll just go to the brush here and go to create insert mesh, right? And it says, do you want to create a new one or do you want to append it? And I'm just going to append it to the one I have. Okay, so, all right, spread brush and then, okay, oh, yeah, I should be on the brush. Here we go. I'm on my brush now, right? So here I'm just going to go to create insert mesh and append. And why does it keep going? Oh, let me just jump out of this. Here we go. This will work now. I was in move mode. That's why it wasn't working. So now that I'm off of move mode, it will work. So I'm going to append it to this brush. So now it says there. And it gives me the hint here that I can press M. So if I scroll down here, it's added it at the end, right? I'm just going to scroll all the way down. And here it is. Or I can press the M key and it'll show me all the different brushes that are included in here. So that's how you can make an IMM brush. And then the alphas and the strokes. So that's kind of a very kind of general question. Alphas are over here, right? And you can just import anything as an alpha. You can import a black and white image or a color image. It will change it to grayscale, and that would be the alpha. And your strokes are in the stroke menu. This is where you basically can define the strokes. So if you have a brush, you can define a stroke for it and put in all the modifiers for it. And then when you save it, it will save it with those modifiers. So hopefully that answers your question. And let's jump back to our project. Okay, so here we go. We now have this balloon. I'm going to place it over here like so. Okay. And there it is. Okay, so in the picture, the balloon's kind of a little bit bigger this way, but I think I'm just gonna, I'm gonna interpret it to be about this size, and also it's about a little bit higher than the Mech, about maybe this much higher. So I'm just gonna kind of put it there. All right, and there's one on the other side. Oh, one other thing is that this point over here is kind of flat, so I'm just gonna use my clip curve to flatten this part out. And I'm going to mirror and weld this onto the other side. I just want to make sure these are not touching. Nope. Okay, good. So here are the two balloons. So right now I kind of have a, kind of a skeletal version of what I had in the AI program, and I just need to do some refinements. So for this guy over here, I think I want it to be a little bit thinner. So here I'm basically just using the concept design from the AI as a starting point, and then doing these items later. Okay, so I want these to look a little bit more like the balloons, so I'm going to use the Dynamics program in ZBrush to do that. So let's see here. I'm going to add some subdivisions to this, not too many, but a few. So I'm going to add 2 levels of subdivision. That smooths it out a bit, which is what I wanted. And now what I want to do is go ahead and so a balloon basically will be moving upwards, right? So I'm going to switch the gravity upside down like this, right? So I'm going to go to Dynamics, and for gravity, I'm going to say there is gravity, but I'm going to set direction for it to be up, right? So, now it thinks the gravity is this way. It's not the ground. And we're going to do an inflate. And we're going to, I'll do a very little bit of expand here. And the gravity, I don't want it to be very strong. Let's just start with, let's say 2. And I'm going to set the other objects to be collision volumes, which should be pretty fast. And let's run the simulation to see what happens. Okay, so that's kind of looking good. What I want to do here is I also want to shrink down this bottom part a bit, and this will fix it. Okay, this is looking more and more like what I want. So cool. All right, let's just lower it down here. I'm going to smooth out this part. And these are still 2 separate objects, even though they're kind of colliding. I don't want them to collide. So I'm going to drop them down in subdivision level here and separate them out a little bit. I mean, they're going to crash back into each other, but I just want to kind of not have them do that even more. So this is looking a little bit more like what I want. So let's run that simulation a bit more. Okay, I think the gravity strength is too much. Let's go to 1. Let's go to 0.1. See what that does. That way we have more time to manipulate things as it goes along. It's still pretty, it's pretty aggressive. Oh, it's 1.1. All right, let's go to 0.1. All right, let's see here. Here we go. All right, so now they're looking more like the balloons that we have. And I'm going to go up in subdivision levels to here. And let's do a little bit of more of this. Okay, that's all good. Move it down. All right. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, instead of doing it the way I did, I'm going to separate these out and do them individually so they don't look like mirrored versions of each other. So here I'm just going to split these out, 2 different objects, split 2 parts. Here we go. All right, and I'm going to recalc and have this be another. Oops, let me go up in subdivision levels first. I'm going to have these be. Did it lose the subdivision levels? It did. No problem. I can just add them back. 3 is good, and then here this one, 3 is good as well. So here I'm just going to recalc the objects that it could collide with, and then run the simulation. So that way it basically will not collide with this one, and then switch over to the other one and run its simulation separately. Whoa, what is going on with this one? Let me do a recalc on this one as well. Here we go. All right, so one thing I'm getting that I don't like is I'm getting these kind of little pinches over here, and that's because I've got a pull, but that's easily fixed. but these are starting to look a lot more like what I want. So here I'm just going to go ahead and do a little bit of tweaking by using some of these cloth brushes. So I'm going to use the cloth move, and I'm going to move this along a bit and get a little bit of these kind of folds going on. And not too much of a bloat here, but get some sort of, you know, fold action going where this thing is connecting to whatever it is that it's connected to lift the mech up in the sky. All right, so that looks good. I might just use a cloth brush to add some folds, but this works pretty well. I could do the thick skin trick as well if I wanted to, but I think this is going okay. All right, so that looks good. And I'll go over to the other one and start working on it. Okay, so I need to, again, recalc the collision objects so it doesn't do that weird funky thing that it did. And that way it will not collide with all these objects. And I'm just going to tweak this. I'm basically just using the cloth move, and I'm going to turn symmetry off. Don't need it. All right, so basically these are going to be these two kind of balloons that are going to be moving together. And now I think I'm good. I'm not going to run the simulation again, so I'm going to merge these two back together. So merge down. I don't know if I'm going to lose subdivision levels. I probably won't. Okay, nope, I didn't. I still have 3 on each. That's great. And now I'm just going to recalc the thing here and start tweaking these around a little bit more. I'm going to turn polyframe off so I can kind of see them as what they are, and just kind of get a little bit more of the inflate going on here, and still trying to match that AI image. Okay, so what's happening here is that it's kind of flattening out because it's got floor collision on. I should have turned that off, but no problem, easily fixed. I wonder what a fast way would be to just try that. All right, and I did again manage to get these things to connect to each other. So I'm going to go back to the lower subdivision levels and separate them out. All right. I'm amazed nobody's made the joke yet, but yeah. All right. Okay, so there's that, and now let's go ahead and make, go up in subdivision levels here, and I'm still using the cloth move to create these, and yeah, here we go. The internet never disappoints. All right, let's just add some creases here. I've got one going already. And it's funny, every time I do a touch here, it basically wants to, I think I'm going to go ahead and turn self-collision way up so it doesn't happen. All right. Okay. Good. All right, so now that we've got this, I'm going to go ahead and hide the balloons and start working on the legs for the mech. All right. I don't really want to see this back part either. So For the legs, I guess I can just go ahead and use my insert thing here again, insert polymesh 3D. And this is just a simple script that I recorded that basically just brings up my brush here, and then I can go ahead and choose the different object that I want to insert. It's just a kind of a shortcut way of doing it. So here I'm just going to go ahead and make a leg. And of course, I've got different ways of doing this. Why don't I actually do it that way instead of doing it this way? All right, I think I'm going to delete that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to load a tool that I have. Actually, I'm going to load I think I have it in that Catwoman image. So I'm just going to use load tools from project and Catwoman. All right. I think I loaded one that has a lot of subtools, so no worries. I'll get rid of them as soon as they're done. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete all for this. Got to be very careful here. Delete all. Okay. And by the way, here's another mech I was working on. Just kind of a sketch. You guys get a quick preview of it. I might do that at some point. Here are some poses for the Catwoman that I have. I'll delete that as well. So I don't need this either. I'm not doing the automatic. Well, I guess I can. Just have to be a little bit more careful. Here's another pose. Delete all. Here are 3 poses. And let's delete this one too, this one too. What's that? Yeah, I don't need that one either. This is the one I need, and I don't need the guy. Well, let's keep the guy, why not? It doesn't hurt. And so I'm going to copy this rig that I have, which is a Z-sphere rig. So I'm going to copy that and paste it in here. Whoa, that came in really big. And is this still, what just happened? Oh, it just made it a lot smaller. Here we go. But is this still Z-sphere rig A? Yeah, I don't want the adaptive skin, but yeah, I guess it's not. Adaptive skin. It doesn't matter if it's not. It's fine. Yeah, it's not. Is it? It looks like it is. Yeah, it is a Z-sphere rig. Okay, good. Even better. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to shrink the size of this, and I guess I can do that with the center one here. And deformation and size. Let's make that smaller. That's too small, maybe about this size. And I'm just going to use the legs, but I might use the arms too, why not? Okay, so let's go back in here. So this here is a Z-sphere rig, and it should go back to Z-spheres, but I don't know why it's not going back to Z-spheres. So here, well, I guess it is a rig, so it should be fine. And then if I'm in move mode, I've got symmetry on. That's all good. And let me turn transparency on so I can see through it. Okay, here we go. And I can just move these. Am I in move mode? I am. So I'm going to move these parts out to here. And move this this is the center Z-sphere. I can't delete it, so I'm just going to kind of leave it here this way. And then let's move this one over. And if you guys are interested to see how I made this, in my episode, or season 1, is when I made this rig. So this is from the streams. And so you can go into those episodes and see it. And let me see if I can scale these out. How about here? Yep, here we go. All right, I wonder, I'm trying to kind of figure out a good stance for make these a little bit bigger. Now these spheres are not really going to show, but they are there for, how do I want this to go? I guess I'll go do a chicken leg one. Why not? So here I'm just basically kind of doing a block out of the legs of this thing. Let's bring the balloons back just for kicks. Just make sure we don't, yeah, see, here we go. This would make the balloons pop. We don't want that now, do we? All right, so move this over this way. Let's move this forward like that. Move this one forward as well. Whoop. There we go. Right, and maybe I can use these arms as arms. So, you know, the mech has arms. I'm just going to collapse this down and move these out. And I don't know if I want my mech to have actual hands, but if no, I don't. I'm just going to go ahead and delete those. So to delete these, you just, I think you press Alt down and click, no, is it Control? Forget. It's one of the two. To be in edit mode, that's what's going on. Okay, yep. If you hold Alt down, you just basically can delete these spheres. So since I don't want these hands, I'm just going to delete this part of the rig like so. People having a good week? I had a crappy week this week. Started out kind of crappy and just continued like that for the rest of it. But today was a good day. So hopefully my bad luck week is changing. All right, so now we got rid of those hands. Well, we don't want to add anything new here. We just want to move these around. And this head's kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if I want that either, so let's get rid of it. Maybe up until that point right there. All right, and I don't know if I can, let me see if I can. Yeah, I think this just basically, the scale is just a one kind of scale, so I'll have to make these fatter, the connections fatter later on, right? All right, so I'm assuming that this is not a battle mech. It's more like maybe like a rescue mech. So it just basically goes down, picks things up, and moves them to safety. Yeah, I'm pretty disgusted with war right now, so I don't want to do guns and war things. It's pretty horrible what's happening. All right. I did see the Strawberry King. I did see the deleted scene from Joker. You know what's kind of interesting about that, since you're asking, is that it seems to me like they, it's borrowing a lot, like really heavily borrowing from Heath Ledger's Joker, which is not a negative thing. I mean, Heath Ledger's Joker was really good. So it was really kind of good, but it just kind of seemed to me like it was a kid and not like a grown man. Same thing with the Riddler. Like he seemed like too young to be, you know what I mean? Like too young of a person to be the Riddler. But yeah, no, that was good. I wonder, I mean, I'm sure they're going to have the next movie be about him. They're setting it up pretty heavily. And I'm pretty sure there'll be another movie. Really, really sure there will be another one. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I saw it in the theater. Right, so I'm getting a little bit of an idea of what my Mech is going to look like. I don't like the legs just popping out of here, so I think I'm going to change that out a bit. So I'm going to go back to transparency mode and move the center part down to here and move these legs down as well. There we go. So again, just, I got the idea from the AI program, which was really nice. And now I'm basically going in and reinterpreting this to be what I want it to be. And it'd be interesting to see if AI can do this part too. But we shall see. All right, that's looking good. I probably need to make this part a little bit thicker over here, but I think this is good enough for now. I think what I want to do is go to the Z-sphere that's on top of that, this one, and make it bigger. All right, we got Argentina in the house. We got Brazil, Argentina, and Armenia. So we got 3 different countries. Anybody else want to chime in as to where you're from? I always am interested to know where people are tuning in from. Okay. Right. This part here is just kind of an interesting doohickey. I don't know if I'm going to keep it or whatnot, but I'm just basically getting kind of a good basic skeletal version of this. And let's turn perspective on, and let's kind of see what this looks like. Kind of do some render tests. Again, it's pretty kind of vague. So if I'm being asked to, let's say, go in and present this, I can always do kind of a turnaround of it, like, do a turntable. And doing a turntable in ZBrush is really easy. You just go to movie, and here, let me just check a couple of things here. We don't want an overlay image, and we don't want a title image either. No fade in, no fade out. And let's choose medium size, just the dock itself, right? So I can just go ahead, and if I want to do a quick movie of a turnaround, I can just go ahead and say do turntable, and there it is. Bam, done. And I can just go ahead and save that, and I can just play it as well. So there's the movie, and I can always export it out as a whatever. So like if it needs to get approved or whatever at this point, this would be the time to do it. Okay, so now I'm going to do some test renders of it, just kind of see what this could look like. Another thing I want to do here real quick is I'm getting a little bit of jaggy lines. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to go ahead and let's see if it's already big. No, it's not. So I'm just going to double the size of the document. Like so. Where are you? Document. Double. Yes. And just redraw this out. And let's say half it. Okay, here we go. All right, so now it has less jaggies, and this will kind of look a little bit better when I do the render. And again, this is going to be really, really rough. I'm just going to try to kind of match it to what I had before. So here I'm just going to quickly click on BPR. That gives me some shadows and whatnot. And I'm going to go ahead and try some filters with it. Let me see if I can make this not be 4 lines. And I don't know if this will work. Let's see. It does. Nope. Does it work on top? No, it does not. Shoot. Okay, no worries. Let's go to And that's fine. I'll just kind of do a small version of it up here to get the idea. And then if we get something we like, we can make it bigger. And I'm going to go to, and basically what I was looking for is there's a thing up here that I can click on. Wow, the AI image just generated something really neat. I'll just bring it over to show you guys. Like it just generated this. Look at how cool that is. Maybe we'll use that at a future point. Yeah, so the AI, the AI program is actually generating images while I work. All right, we got Canada, Seattle, Norway. Geez, I've got the whole planet here. Awesome. Thank you everybody for joining from all these countries. I know it's probably late in some of the places you are, so I really appreciate you guys joining in live, and hopefully we'll get something really cool looking in here. All right, so here I'm just going to try some filters. Let me just do a quick render again, and let's try kind of a, something like this maybe. Let's get a kind of a cartoony look. That's looking good. It's kind of okay. So now I'm seeing a couple of things already that I want to change, and one is the size of the balloons, because in the AI image in this one, where did you go? Here we go. In this one, you can see here that this part that I have is a lot smaller than this. So I'm going to try and match that to the object itself. I'll try this one more time. Nope. Okay, no worries. I should have just made it smaller before. All right, so now, so I can either make these parts bigger or I can make the balloon smaller. I think making the balloon smaller would probably be the easier way to go. Let's see if I can achieve that. There we go. There we go. I might need to do a little bit more work on them. Move this out a bit. And let's choose the other one, move it this way a bit. Okay. I don't know what's happening here. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I just want these not to be close to each other so that they don't collide. Let's bring this back. And yeah, this one needs to be a little bit further out. This way, well, I can bring them closer later. But yeah, in the picture, it's more or less more like, this scale, maybe a little bit bigger. So about this scale. So yeah, these balloons are probably going to lift this thing up. And here I'm just basically taking my freedom just with, I'm not even using dynamics, I'm just using good old move brush to just make these different sizes. I'll probably tweak them a bit with the cloth dynamic stuff later. All right, so this is looking a little bit more like the image itself. And the image, the balloons are a little bit bigger as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. As a matter of fact, I don't need the balloons to be that different right now. So I'm going to actually work on them symmetrically. So what I'm going to do is select this one, delete the hidden one. Okay, delete lower subdivision levels. Control A, delete hidden, and mirror and weld. Okay, good. All right, and just for now, I just need them to be symmetrical, and then I'll break the symmetry later on when I get to a point. But I just wanted to test them out just to see if they were working okay, and they were. Okay, so here are the kind of the balloons. There's the mech kind of skeleton. Let's go back to that skeleton and tweak it some more. All right, Atlanta. Bad Cat is from Atlanta. Okay. Neo Parzival's from Colombia. This is from Seattle, Norway. Cool, 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 cool. All right, anybody from anywhere else? We got quite a few, we got about 75 people in here, so I'm sure there is everybody else from Anybody from anybody from Asia? Well, I guess Norway. Is Norway Europe or Asia? I think it's Europe. Could be considered. All right. So just move this around a bit. And again, with this rig, I don't really care about the rig itself, because at some point I'm just going to generate a model from it, and then each one of these is going to be its own independent piece that I can individually work on. Right now I'm just kind of working on the whole gesture of what this mech is going to look like. Right, so the balloon lifts it up, drops it down, and I'm guessing the balloon kind of compresses itself to this back part, which I might do that as a kind of a project as well. Let's turn polyframe back on. I'm going to do some tweaking on here. Does it have symmetry on? It does. I'm going to use this move infinite depth, which is kind of cool because I just want to, give this a little bit more of an interesting profile this way. All right, Ozone McWego is from LA. Okay, cool. Yeah, same city. You probably have the best bandwidth. I've got Florida, Columbia. All right. Yep. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Bagged goldfish transporting mech. Sure. That could be a cool idea too. Like there's some sort of a creature in here that lives in some sort of a vapor, and this mech kind of transports it to different places. I don't know. Who knows? It's always good to do concept design from abstraction instead of getting a script and having to make that look the way it needs to look, which is also has its own challenges, has its own merits and fun. How are we doing on time? Doing good. We got another hour or so to go, or another 45 minutes. All right, not too many questions today. I had a few in the beginning, but it seems all of you guys are intrigued by what's going on. All right, so I think kind of as a basis starting point, this is okay for the mech. However, it looks like this mech that I have, or the image and the AI, has more stuff going on down here. So I'm just going to duplicate this rig. So I've got two of them now. And I'm going to maybe try and see if I can do some other things. So I've got one of these rigs, but what if this mech had multiple legs? So I'm just going to go ahead and, so there's two of these now, and I can switch back and forth between them, and maybe this thing is a multi-pad. Let's try and see how that works, and also has multiple arms. Why not? Right? Oops. By the way, this is one of the most fun parts of using ZBrush, is this kind of playing stage where you don't have like orthogonal images of something that you have to replicate, but you're actually doing 3D concept design based on some esoteric image that the AI has found. And let's kind of put these legs out more as well. So this is maybe more of a quadrupedal mech. I think it's funny how these toes curl as you move things up. See? All right. It's like a dog. All right. So I think we have enough to go by to generate what we want. I'm looking at the concept there to see if it's working, and I think it is. I think it's working really well. All right. So I'm going to leave these rigs be. I'm going to just duplicate both of them. And I'm going to put them in a folder, the duplicates, just so I have a copy if I need to go back to it. So I'll just call this rigs. Just call them Z rigs. Z sphere. Z sphere rigs. There. And I want to make sure I got one of each in here and hide them and just move this to the bottom. So that way, if I ever need these again, I can always bring them up. And then with these rigs here, what I'm going to do is go ahead and generate them as geometry. Okay, so to generate them as geometry, I'm just going to go to adaptive skin here. And let me just solo this out so I know what I'm working on. Look at that, okay. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to use classic string, make adaptive skin. So now that's not going to do it here. It's just going to do it somewhere else, which is here. And so it just created this for me, and that's exactly what I want. Go back to my model, unsolo this, go to that other part, do the same thing, adaptive skin. So I should kind of go through and explain a few things that are going on here. Adaptive skin is how you generate a model out of a Z-sphere rig. And Z-spheres are like one of the most amazing capabilities that ZBrush has that no other program has. I mean, they're metaballs and things like that, but Z-spheres are so underappreciated and underused. I'm surprised that they're not more commonly used, but I use them all the time. I really like using them. I think they're fantastic. They're fabulous. Just amazing capability that ZBrush has that is way underutilized. And people use them as kind of armatures, which is great, but you can also use them to do what I did. Okay, so with that, when you have a Z-sphere rig, and let me just kind of give you a good kind of perspective of that. So here's a Z-sphere, here's another Z-sphere, here's another Z-sphere, right? And basically what I'm doing with what I was working on before is I'm still moving these spheres around, but in between of the spheres, instead of having this kind of staggered sphere thing, I'm actually replacing those with a Polymesh 3D. I'm replacing them with this kind of cube, elongated cube, right? So if you press A, adaptive skin, it generates this, right? Which first of all, if you go to adaptive skin, first of all, it's got a Dynamesh on it. If you don't want it, you just lower the Dynamesh down and you do it again. Now it's geometry, and then you can also reduce the density, so it's really low density. But if you go to the classic skinning, you get other goodies. So this is where you actually, by the way, insert that cube in the middle. But if you do preview here, you can see that what you're getting is a little bit different than what you had before. And I don't know if this is colliding in it, or I think it needs another Z-sphere over here. I'll do that real quick on the other side. Oops. And let's see. Yep, here we go. So now you're getting something a little bit different than what you had before. So with classic skinning, it looks a little bit different. There's a bit of a twist here. You can fix that twist by rotating the Z-sphere, but you're getting a different result, right? And in what I'm doing, we don't need this anymore. I'm going to delete it. And with what I'm doing here, right, what I'm getting with these settings that I have, so I've got the use classic skinnings. The iRes is at 6, so the intersection resolution is at 6, but the membrane curvature is at 0, and the density is at 1. So when I say make adaptive skin, it basically just is making that model for me, and this is what it looks like. So here I've got one, this is it, right? So this is just geometry, and I've got another one right here, which is also geometry. So what I need to do is bring these into my project. So I'm going to go back into here and delete these two. I don't need them anymore. I've got copies of them that I've saved. So delete and delete. Okay, so those are gone. And what I want to do is bring these guys in. So copy and paste. Okay. Oh, nope. What happened? All right, it kind of pasted into this one, which is not what I wanted, but that's fine. I want to go into the one that has these guys, paste, and it's not the one I pasted. Okay, and this one's the next one I want, so I'm going to copy this one, go here. It's going to be the same one, isn't it? It is. All right, that's not the one I want. I want, where are you? I want this guy. Okay, so copy and paste. All right, so now I've got, did it go in here? It did go in here. I don't want the rig itself, so I'm just going to take that out. And I don't want to see these two guys. All right, so here we go. I've got two of these that are geometry. And the way I know that they're geometry is because somehow it puts the center sphere, or the root of the z-spheres that I had, it puts it in as this kind of semi-sphere, which I don't need. So I'm going to go to ZModeler here and just delete the island, delete that, these guys. So that's gone, right? And then on this one, it's there too, and oops. All right. So now we basically have all of these as geometry. So I can connect them together, or I can just use them separately. And again, I still have the two rigs that I can manipulate. So if I'm doing something and I say, oh, well, I don't really want that to be there, I can go in and bring the rigs back and position them differently. All right, so let's kind of start working on this back part here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put each one of these in their own folder. So new folder, rear legs, or rear mech. And this one is going to be in a folder as well, and call that front mech. And I'm going to hide the rear one for now. Well, actually, I'm going to work on the rear one first. Okay, so hide the front one and start working on the rear one. Okay, so, and the reason why I put this in a folder is because I'm going to separate them out. And to do that, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, I've got a visitor. And there she is. Hello, kitty. Here, say hi. There she is. She's curious as to what's going on. I didn't close the door today because she was being pretty quiet, but now she's up and curious. We might see her tail or walk by. Hopefully she doesn't start being naughty. All right, I'm going to delete the symmetry because I don't need to work on this on both sides. So I'm just going to keep, oops, forgot to activate the symmetry. And I want to get rid of this part, and this part, and this part. Here we go, tail. Yeah, Z-Sketch is really great. Z-Sketch is awesome. You can do some neat, nifty stuff with that too. So maybe I'll do another. So here, I don't know if I'm going to complete this one today. I think what I'm going to do is I will. Maybe this whole season will be every time I take one AI image and kind of get it to this stage. Maybe that's what I'll do. And then we'll pick one and finish it at some point. All right, so all these parts now are on the left and the right. So what I want to do is separate them out. So I'm going to go ahead and select these, Control A, oops. Here we go. And so these are just the leg parts, and I'm going to split the hidden parts. Like so. The cat is just hanging out right here. Like she's right, let me see if I can get the pen in. Like she's right over here, right? She's sitting right over there, like right next to my mouse. Let's see, she's so funny. All right, so I've got this middle part now here, and I've got this part right here. And what I want to do is I want to mirror and weld this part. Not yet, not yet. I'll do it later. All right, so now I've got these kind of parts, and some of these are divided into two. There she is again, tail. And are you going to jump on stuff? Do I need to kick you out? All right. So I can do a bunch of different things here. Like one of the things I like doing is inflating these. I'll bring everything back so I can see it. Right. So I want to maybe inflate this part a bit. So, and also, by the way, if I don't want to get that kind of thing in the middle, it's really easy to go in and delete these edge loops. So I'm going to do that with some of these, like so. Because I don't really need that level of detail. And I'm going to leave this as 2. All right, what are you doing? Hang on a second. Okay. All right, so so here with the inflate, I can just, if I want to make this bigger, I'm just going to use the inflate brush and make this part bigger. Oh, look at that. There's another doohickey in here that we didn't want. So let me get rid of that as well. Yeah, I don't know if, is there one everywhere? No, there's just those two. Okay, so I'm just inflating these parts to, oops, to make them a little bit bigger, like so. And I don't care if these ones are, and so I'm just basically trying to get some cool shapes for the legs. So I had kind of the initial pieces in there, but now I'm getting more of the basic parts. Like so. And let's do some inflating of the arms. And again, I want to do a little bit of cleanup here. I don't want this edge loop, or maybe I'll leave that one for now. I don't want that one either. I don't want this one. And I don't know if I want this one either. All right, so let's go back to inflating. Most cat people are artists. I don't know. There are a lot of dog people that are artists too. Like Ashley, who does streaming. She's got a dog. I don't know. Depends. She is a cutie. She totally is. She totally is a queen. Ashish Kumar is asking what I'm creating. Ashish Kumar, if you go back after this thing is over, you can watch a recording of the stream. So basically, I'm recreating this mech here, and this is AI generated. So basically, AI generated a bunch of images, and what we're doing is we're going in and recreating some of the things that we're seeing in here, which are a little bit abstract, but they also do give me some sort of a hint of something that that I can use. All right, well, that's kind of an interesting thing that just happened. Let me just resize the window here to get that artifact out. Okay, back to this. So now you can see that that rig that I had is turning into something a little bit more functional. And here I'm going to go ahead and separate the legs and the arms out as well. So I'm just going to select the legs here, split hidden. And again, I'm working on these in pretty low resolution just to kind of get the idea of what they are. somehow I messed up this guy. How did I do that? All right, let's fix it. Which side looks better? I think this side looks better. So I'm going to set this part right here. Oops, symmetry on. Of course I do. All right, select this part like so. Delete hidden. Mirror and weld. It's all good, but I've got these weird intersections here, so let me fix this. By the way, this is kind of a really nifty thing I'm showing. So you guys can get an idea of what to do when you get a weird thing that happens like this. So I'm just going to mirror and weld. Here we go. Yep, we're back to something being more symmetrical. And I kind of like this little indentation that it created, so happy accident there. Back to our initial state here. What I wanted to do was move this arm into a different location. So I kind of like it going over this way, but not from the middle, but maybe like from over here. And I think this is the rear one, so I'm just going to move it back to there. That looks good. This thing looks good just like this without even the front part, but let's just keep it at that. Okay, I see some questions. Okay, so here's my take on this, and I know this is maybe it's a bit controversial, but I'll say it. I really don't like the distinction of hard surface artist and organic artist. I think people stick to those because they're more comfortable with it. So if somebody's comfortable with hard surface, they're like, I'm a hard surface artist. And if somebody is comfortable with organic, they say, I only do organic. Okay. For me, I'm both. I don't care. Surface to me is surface, whether it's hard or soft, whether it's organic, whether it's not organic, it doesn't matter to me. And that's kind of my philosophy is that you basically can do either one. And the benefit of being that way is you can mix them, right? So, for example, these balloons are not hard surface, but the mech is going to be hard surface, and I'm going to mix those two up. You know, same thing with creating a character, right? The character, like the Catwoman that I had before, the character itself is an organic character, but her night vision goggles are a hard surface object. So I don't really care about distinguishing between the two. When I teach my students, I basically impress upon them that that's the case as well. But I can understand why somebody would prefer to be one or the other if that's kind of why they want to focus on. And you know, and focusing on a specific thing is not a bad thing. But I always encourage hard surface artists to try working with organic, and organic artists to work with hard surface. And that's the other kind of thing about ZBrush too, is like, you know, every time I do these streams, somebody comes in and says, you know, I didn't know ZBrush could be used for hard surface. And it's like, dude, where have you been? Because I think ZBrush can be used for hard surface. I do a lot of stuff in hard surface, all ZBrush. I know a lot of artists that use ZBrush for hard surface and do amazing work. So I think there's a lot of people in the industry that are kind of, you know, they basically they learned ZBrush and they got their jobs or whatever they're doing using ZBrush, and they kind of want to, you know, kind of limit themselves to that, and you know, and the hard thing about this industry is that if somebody is in management or is well known, then all of a sudden what they say is canon. What they say is kind of what everybody believes, just because there's so many people that are for lack of a better word, troglodytes in the industry, people that are higher up in the company and that have a lot of clout, but are just divas that basically want to impress their opinion on people just so that they can hold on to their power. So, you know, and, you know, I know how to deal with those guys, and it's okay. And, you know, hopefully what they have achieved warrants that they continue to be those divas, and that's fine. But I don't like to, you know, I like to stick with facts. I like to stick with proven things that I know to be true. than to blindly listen to the things that they say. So I'm off my soapbox now. Let's see. A good artist creates everything. Well, I think a good artist observes everything and is good at creating a certain thing. So, I don't begrudge the people that just want to do hard surface stuff. If somebody just wants to create monsters and creatures, dragons are really popular with ZBrush, then create a great dragon. That's great, and be an expert in dragons, and be an expert in a specific area, and that's great. If that's what your calling is, that's good. But don't go professing that this is the only thing ZBrush is used for, or don't go kind of making broad brush assumptions on something where you can see obviously that it's not the case. Okay, still on my soapbox, I guess. All right, I think so. I think ZBrush is a fantastic tool. I really do. It's one of those things where I am so happy that I am a contemporary of this program, that I am a contemporary of it when it is created. I have watched it grow from its early stages since 2005, and I really, I use a lot of different programs. I use a lot of them. I use Maya, I've used XSI, I've used 3ds Max, I'm using Blender, and all of these are amazing programs as well. But for what I do, for kind of my level of creativity, I'm really happy that something like ZBrush exists, because it is a truly, it truly understands how I want to work, which is kind of an interesting thing to say about a piece of software. But it's just, the more I learn about it, the more I use it, the more I kind of figure out that this is kind of the program for me. And there have been competitors. I mean, I've written a book on Mudbox, which I thought, at the time, not knowing any better, I thought Autodesk would do a really good job with it. And I think that's kind of gone nowhere. My book has gone nowhere either with it. So, I mean, I'm sure Mudbox has its merits. I'm sure there are companies that use it or whatever. But it's definitely not a creation tool. It's more of a, it's more of a pipeline tool. It's very specific in what it does, and I don't think they've done any additions to it in the same way that ZBrush has. All right. Ozone McWago. Awesome name, by the way. Definitely, try a hard surface project. See how well you do. Just take something that is interesting to you. A car would be a good one. Cars are, do something really simple. It doesn't have to be something really complex. Do a toaster, or do a, something that's kind of more of a simple object. I think Paul Gabry has some good videos. He does headphones with ZBrush. He does a few kind of really simple projects, and you can maybe follow along. I think that would be a good place to start, and then you can take it to whatever depths you want. Okay. All right, so one should draw a great to understand anatomy and reference as a concept artist. I think drawing definitely is one of those things where, okay, soapbox number 2. You guys are really kind of, prodding the beehive today. So, I've heard both sides of the argument. One side of the argument is you need to really draw well to be a good concept artist. And the other argument is you don't need to draw well to be a 3D artist or a concept artist. And, I don't think either one of those is 100% correct. I think the reason why drawing is good is because it teaches you a lot of other skills that you need. So whether you are a 3D artist, or you are a 2D artist, or you are a pencil and paper artist, all three of those, there are skills that cross over all three. And there's no way that you can do any one of those three without having those skills, right? And understanding what those skills are. So whether you understand those skills with drawing, or you understand those skills with 3D, or you understand those skills with, with whatever, with sculpture, right? With whatever kind of artistic practice you have, I think you have to have those skills. You have to have that knowledge. So for example, here there's a button that's perspective, right? I need to know what that perspective button does. If I don't understand perspective, then I don't, this button is going to be a mystery to me, right? I mean, ZBrush has a lot of buttons, a lot of menus, and when you understand the concept behind what perspective is, then you know what that button will do. Now, you can learn perspective by drawing. You can learn perspective by understanding what perspective is. I learned perspective by drawing. I actually took a whole course in a semester in college to learn how to do perspective. And before that, my dad taught me how to draw perspective as well, and may help me understand what it is. So whether I'm drawing, whether I'm doing 3D, whatever I'm doing, I need to understand what perspective is. And perspective is just one of the fundamentals. And there's so many others. So I think a lot of artists start drawing because, pencils and papers are cheap and you can get into it pretty fast. And it's a good idea for you to not spend a lot of money on software and hardware and then figure out that this is not for you. But yeah, I mean, it's a long journey and there's a lot of things to learn. So you need to really kind of want to do it. If you don't want to do it, then maybe you should do something else. And there are a lot of other things you can do within this world, within the kind of the 3D world that don't require you to be an artist. I mean, I know a lot of people that do coloring, they do compositing, they do a lot of different things that maybe, don't require as much knowledge in this stuff as the others. And I don't really want to assume that because I don't do those things to the level they do. So maybe they do need it. I don't know. All right. So hopefully that basically is, that's me off the other soapbox. What's the run menu? Oh, okay. Van, you're asking what this is. So this thing here is not part of ZBrush. This is part of Wacom. So the Wacom tablet itself, right, has this ability. So if you're using a Wacom tablet, whether you're using a tablet or a Cintiq, you are using the software for it, and the software for it, here, I'll show you how that works. So the software for it has these abilities, which, let me see if I can bring everything back. Okay. Has this ability where you can go in and you can go to panels. So here under the device itself, you can go to on-screen controls and panels, and you can just create your own panel. So I've created one for ZBrush here, and these are the words that you see on this over here, right? And each one of these basically does a keystroke. So 1 is move, 2 is Damien standard, for example, or whatever. So I've assigned a keystroke to each one of these, and those keystrokes in ZBrush I've assigned as hotkeys to brushes. And the reason why I have this is because I've got this Wacom 3D pen. I'll bring it forward. And the Wacom 3D pen is a little bit different than the regular Wacom pen. So the regular Wacom pen here has the eraser. This one does not. So what they've done is they've taken that eraser and they've placed that same functionality as a button over here. So I've got 1, 2, 3 buttons, and I've assigned this menu to that button. And it's a fast way for me to choose a brush on screen. I mean, sometimes I just use the keys on the keyboard, but between 1 and 9, there's a lot of distance, and I usually like to keep my hands at the bottom right of the keyboard so I can work really fast. And then I just basically use this to pick the most commonly used brushes that I use. And then I also have hotkeys that hotkeys that pop up these menus, and then these are my kind of the second tier brushes that I use. And then I've got a third menu for brushes, which this isn't it. It's this one right here. Where is it? Hang on. It's the B, and this one here is the third level of brushes that I use, right? And then if I press B, then it's like everything. Like this has all of the brushes, which is, you know, a lot of brushes. So I just basically, you know, have a way of refining the brushes from all the brushes to the brushes I use the least often, the brushes I use more often, and the brushes I use very often, which are the ones that are mapped to this round thing. Hopefully that answers that question. All right. Lots of people sculpt really fast sketch and light it and then paint over it. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, I do that too. It's a lot of, you know, I mean, like for example, this thing right here, I can basically take this, model it, right, and then basically bring it into that composition. And basically maybe there's, instead of it being one of these things flying around, there could be 5 of them or 6 of them, definitely. And then let's see, what else is there here? Yeah, this is the Wacom 3D pen. That's what it's called, and you can just get it from Wacom. I don't know how much it is. I don't think it's very. I haven't looked. Let me see how much it is. I can show it to you guys too. Hello, mouse. Here we go. Let's bring in a window. Wacom products, stylus. Oh, these are the ones for. All right, let's see. Man, one of these days, I really hope Wacom changes their website and hires a good company to do it. Their website is a bit of a challenge. Okay, let's explore this. Okay, and okay, so this is the pen that comes with it, which is awesome as well. So I switch between the 2 pens, but whenever I'm using ZBrush, I always use the 3D pen, and it should be down here. Here it is. This is it right here, right? So Wacom Pro Pen 3D, that's what it's called. I shouldn't call it a 3D pen. Wacom Pro Pen 3D, and if I click on Shop now, let's see how much is this thing. It uses the same nibs as the other one, so it's about $100. In my opinion, it's well worth it. It's well worth the $100. And see, this is the button right here. But it's up to you if you want to use that functionality or not. But I'd purchased this before because I thought it was kind of a cool thing and never really used the 3D third button on it. I think Pablo, who also streams, by the way, Pablo Munoz Gomez, also streams. He had a video on it, and I thought, wow, let me try that out. And you know, lo and behold, it's something I love and have used it since then. Okay, it's $80 on Amazon, even better. Ozone McWago says that it's $80 on Amazon. That's great. Cheaper tablets is my 3rd pen in a year. Oh yeah. Yeah, you know, it's good that you say that because I've used these pens. So I've used these 2 Wacom pens for 6 years, 5 years, and they still work. I've changed the nibs, so you basically change the nibs, but they come with a bunch already. So I just pop out the nib every once in a while and pop in a new one. But the pens are pretty rock solid. They make really good pens. I think that's one of the strengths of Wacom. I mean, there might be other tablets that are coming out nowadays that are okay, but Wacom always has the best pens for everything. So I always feel like that's one of their big strengths. I don't work for Wacom, and I just whenever I use something that's good, I always like to make sure I give it the level of recognition it deserves. Right, let's see here. Change the concept all the time, always changing my mind. Do you have any tips to stay on track and not always second guess your ideas mid-project? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, good. So that's a very good question. Changing your concept midway. So first of all, know that you are going to do that, and and doing that in the industry is something that occurs all the time. So in the industry, people change their minds all the time. Directors always, art directors always change their mind. I mean, sometimes they do stuff that is pretty far along in games too. Like they do something that's pretty far along, and then all of a sudden they decide we don't want this and they want to change it. So being in the mindset of making a lot of changes to your project and not kind of being weighted down by the fact that you have to make edits and changes is a good practice to have. That said, one of the things that I've found to be really successful in not having to do a lot of revisions, because a lot of times, I mean, if you're getting paid by the hour and they're asking you to do revisions, that's great. But if you are being paid by the hour and they've paid you already, and then they contact you and want you to do the revision after the fact, then you're basically losing money, right? So you want to be able to do your revisions. What's this mess over here? I don't need any of this. You want to be able to do your revisions in a kind of a in a way that I'm going to delete all that junk. Sorry, I'm kind of chewing gum and walking at the same time here. So what you want to do is you want to kind of get it in. You want to work in a way. I mean, sometimes you can't help it, right? Sometimes you just have to you have to do the revisions. Hopefully, you can negotiate them to pay you for your time to do them. A lot of companies will do that. They will pay you if you tell them what the scope of the revision is. And also, when you are working on a concept, it's always good to get some sort of a contract that says what the scope of your work is, because companies, and they can keep you on it for a very, very long time. So let them know beforehand that, hey, let's agree on what I'm supposed to deliver, and I will deliver that, and maybe I can build in 1 or 2 revisions. Minor revisions, but then if you guys want big revisions, then that's going to cost you more. But the way you avoid that, again, coming back to that, is if you work, don't get into the details. Always do your primary forms first. Get buy-off from your directors, art directors. Tell them, hey, do you like this? And if they say yes, then you continue on. But if I kind of did this mech and finished it and then showed it to them and they said, oh, well, we don't like this and we don't like that, then you have to go back and do everything all over again. And you're going to have wasted all this time and all this money, both your time and their money. So I would say work on the primary forms, get buy-off, work on the secondary forms, get buy-off, work on the tertiary forms, and then hopefully it's good enough at that point. I mean, because I think by that time enough eyes have seen it and enough people that are paid to give their opinion have given their opinion, so that when it's done, you're basically not kind of stuck with having to accommodate what they need. So hopefully that answers that question. Yeah, if you're running around in circles, that's definitely a problem. What I would do at that point is maybe take a step away from it, and spend some time reevaluating what you're doing. Oh, this is kind of an interesting thing. By the way, this is pretty cool. I'll show you what it is. So I've got my focal shift at 0. So notice that when I'm moving this, it's moving it this way. Like it's not moving, so if I have my focal shift at -100, it's moving the whole leg. Right? But if I have my focal shift at 100, at 0, then it's basically being influenced by where the gizmo is. So if I want to move the feed out, I can move the gizmo down to here, and then I can move the gizmo out this way. So you can see that this whole thing is kind of being affected by it in a different way, right? So even if I go up or down, you can kind of have some elasticity, and this is kind of really good to for posing and stuff. So it's pretty useful. And they just added this in ZBrush, I think in the 2022 0.1. It's definitely like a very recent feature, and it's one of those really super useful features that you go like, how did I live without this all this time? All right. What else are you guys saying? All right, Lord Papoosh. Have a good night. You can catch. What time is it? We're almost getting to the end of this anyway, so I will. I don't know. Next time I'll see if I want to continue this or if I want to do something new. I'll probably continue it. I think this is going pretty well, but I don't think I'm going to spend the whole season on this one specific particular thing. I think I'll probably swap it out. But have a good night, and for the rest of you that are here, I think we're almost done. We have about 5 minutes to go. So if you guys have last minute questions, ask away. And if you don't, then I'll just kind of continue to work on this. So now we're going to work on the front part. Here it is. And which is kind of interesting. Let me just solo this out. I'm going to do the same kind of cleanup with this, where I'm just going to delete half of the model. Sure, symmetry is not on. So let's grab all of this and delete it. Okay, let's see. Lol, what was your question? I've been looking at references in my forms. Whereas only look at them before they have been told. Oh, okay, good. Yes, thanks for bringing that. I totally missed that question, and it's a good one too. Okay, so I think it's always good to have reference there to get to and look at. I think the way I work with reference is I gather the reference first, so that kind of puts my mind in line with what I'm going to create. So it kind of puts me in it creates the mood. It gives me some kind of guidance as to where I want to go. And so like gathering of the reference is in its own a kind of a process of getting the ideas to start in your mind. So you basically jumpstarts the ideas in your head. And then every once in a while I glance at the reference. But I only go to the reference hardcore if I am lost. So if I find myself to be stuck, right, and I feel like I'm going nowhere, I'm going in circles, as somebody said here, I think was it you? But yeah, if you feel like you're going in circles, then for sure, that's when you look at reference. That's when you go back to your reference and you go, okay, well, what am I? Why am I not kind of getting to where I want to get to? And it's a good way to kind of put you back on track. Also, with anatomy, it's really good to always be looking at reference. I know a lot of artists that are so good that they don't need to look at reference at all. But some of the really good artists still always are looking at reference. They always have books. They always have these anatomical models from anatomy tools or something like that, and they always use them that way. All right. So LOL, hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, always have reference around. Don't be always looking at it. Like, don't be like, ping-ponging your head between the reference and what you're working on. But whenever you're lost, look at your reference. And every once in a while, glance over just to make sure you're kind of in the same arena. And also with your reference, like here, and this is not a really good example, but I'll but it will get the point across. So for example, here for the project that I have, right? So what I do is let's say I've got a whole sheet of reference, and I usually have a reference that's at least this many images. I always have maybe about 20 to 30 images, and I don't leave them all up. I always focus on one. So this is the one I'm working on, let's say, or this is the area I'm working on, and that's the only one I look at. I don't look at all the reference because then it gets to be too much noise. Okay, so that much for that. Hopefully that answers your question. And then faithless zealot, which is a really good oxymoron. Let's see. Hey, I've been having trouble with. I'm making an Iron Man like mech suit, but I'm having trouble designing the joints for the parts that are supposed to move around like the waist. Do you know any sources? Yes. Okay. So what I would recommend you do, well, first of all, So Iron Man, you know, there's a lot of funky stuff going on with that model from a practical perspective. So like if you watch the movie and you freeze the frames, you can see that there's a lot of collision parts and a lot of intersecting parts and a lot of things that just basically, it has to be some sort of liquid metal for the kind of the things that Iron Man does to work. Now, and even if you get like a model of it, so let's look one up. Let's look for an Iron Man toy. All right, so you know, and like let's look at some of these ones over here. And there's all sorts of different ones. I mean, there's more expensive ones and more cheaper ones or whatever. So let's look at this one right here, right? Let's look at this one right here. Okay, so you can see that there's a kind of a huge gap here in where this leg can articulate, right? And you can see here that there's a hinge joint over here on the arm, and there's a ball joint over here, but this looks not, I mean, yeah, it is the Iron Man suit, but this is a toy that you can articulate and have it pose or whatever. But this is no way the Iron Man suit itself. So Iron Man, let's look at the image of the movie, not toys. Okay, so if you look at images here of the actual guy, that's not, okay, so here's one, right? And you can see this right here. Like, I don't know how this knee would, kind of waist here would bend, okay? I mean, like here, look at this. How is this going to, you know, articulate? How is he going to bring his arm forward like this? Like where, there's no room here for it to come over, right? So I think one of the things you should do is if you're going to make an Iron Man type suit, if you want it to articulate, then you probably should get it, you know, you should make the considerations of how much range of motion it's going to have. And a best way to do that is I've found this Japanese toy, and I think I talk about it in my first season. So by the way you can watch the first season is like this. I think I have a link to, so if you go to ZBrush Live, right? So if you go to ZBrush Live, like here, and you go to presenters, and you scroll down, and you find me, which I should be here. Here we go, right? You click on my name. If you scroll down, it has all of the previous streams that I've done. And if you go back all the way to 3, I guess I've done 3 pages worth now. Wow. Okay. Well, yeah, this one right here, like these two. There's this Japanese toy that I got. I got it when I was in Japan, but they do sell them here. You can find them. I think Amazon has them too. And I think they're called, God, what are they called? Geez. Okay, let me see if I can articulated Japanese mech toy. Let's see if Google can find it for me. It's something like this, but this is not it. Let's see if I can find it with images. Where are you? Man, look at these amazing mechs that it just came up with. But none of these are it. But I'm hoping the name of this thing will come up so I can show it to you guys. Where are you? But it might be a good idea to get one of these toys. Like, it would be a good idea for you to actually get a physical toy that is an articulated model and look at what it is. Of course, you can always make a model that is not articulated and not, you know, and not pose it. Like if you look at here, Iron Giant, I mean, this is a great model that can articulate. But again, if you look at this, there's no way Iron Giant is going to be able to, you know, I guess this rotator here, this part of the metal is going to hit this part. Here it is. This is it. This is it right here. So where'd it go? Right here. This guy. So it's called nonsense frame, or it's just called I think it's frame something or whatever. But you can see this thing articulates really well. And basically, this company has this as the base to build on top of. So like this thing over here it has this as a base, so it could be really well articulated. And you can see here that it's got a lot of different mechs that can kind of generate out of it. So what I recommend you do is you buy one of these things, and I think they're like 10 bucks or 15 bucks or whatever. Yeah, let me look it up on Amazon. Amazon, where are you, Amazon? Okay, and look for frame arms. And it's by Kotobukiya is the name of the company that makes it, right? And so you can see they've got these girls or whatever, which are pretty expensive, but they should have that base. And if you buy one of these, by the way, it comes with it. Excuse me, but you can probably just get that piece. Here it is. Oh man, 52 bucks. This might be a special edition of it. I think the excuse me, the original one is definitely not that expensive. Let me go back to it and put its name in, so we specifically look for that. Like there could be like a collector edition, but frame. Okay, let's just look for frame arms frame. Okay, I don't see it. Some of these are really expensive. Don't tell me that this thing is like not available anymore. I think you can look. I think you can find it online for cheaper. I know this one. My son has this. It has it inside. Where are you? Maybe they don't have it here, but I think if you look online, let's see. Let's look at right here. Frame arms frame. If you're in LA, there's a couple of stores that have it in stock. You can just go buy them. And shopping. Here we go, 13 bucks right here. Galactic Toys, you can get it. Yep, this is what you want, and this is a pretty good. This is a pretty good kind of a thing to get. It's got different hands as well. So if you get one of these, you can just and I built my rig. So this rig that I used initially, this one, is basically built based on that toy, right? So, and I just build one of those and I have it and I can continue to use it. I used it today. I used it on many occasions. So hopefully, all right. Yeah, if you own it, then there you are. You're even further along. The synthetic human toy from 1000 Toys is really good too. And that's a really good one for if you want to create an articulated human type of object. I have one of those too, and they are worth their weight in gold. They're really good. I don't know if they still have them, but yeah, it's worthwhile. All right, so with that, let's kind of call it a night. I think we're about 10 minutes over, which is perfectly fine. Unless you guys have any burning questions, I will end the stream here. And then we will pick it up next time from where we left off. I kind of want to continue this one a little bit further. And yeah, so thanks again for joining me. And let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah, Faith, this is out. Tune in next time. Maybe we can talk about this some more. Having a human inside is a whole other adventure, and that's why I have initially, I don't know if you noticed, but I have this kind of thing here where I actually have a human, and then I have this, and I try to match this skeleton to the human and then build the mech that way, build a kind of a suit out that way. All right, so thanks again everybody for tuning in, and I want to wish you all happy ZBrushing if you have ZBrush, and also, more importantly than anything else, peace. I hope this war ends, and so hope we get peace, and so we're almost done with the virus, and so we can get back to some sort of normalcy. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.